52. Most mysterious and shocking archaeological discoveries that shook human history. Have you ever imagined that beneath the peaceful layers of earth and rock, hidden secrets have been slumbering for thousands of years, waiting to be uncovered? Throughout history, humanity has continuously sought to explore the past to understand more about itself. Yet, some archaeological discoveries are not merely ordinary relics. They shock the world, leaving scientists completely baffled. From skeletons buried in strange positions to architectural marvels that far exceed the imagination of their time, a recent series of mysterious discoveries not only challenge our current knowledge, but also open up a multitude of unsolved questions. What really happened in the past? Who were the owners of these extraordinary artifacts? And why do some of these objects contain elements that send shivers down our spines? In today's video, let's embark on a journey to explore the 10 latest archaeological discoveries. Strange and terrifying, yet puzzling the scientific community. Some of these discoveries even make experts question the very civilization we live in today. So, what are these discoveries? Let's dive in and find out. A skull with a hole in the middle. In the intersection of Naidui Ni Jiao and Ala Jiao in Xinjiang, China, there is a small town called Jiao. This is one of the lowest areas on the slopes of the Tian Shan Mountains and a key point of both the northern and southern routes of the ancient Silk Road. The ancient nomads primarily operated in this region. So many historical ruins and tombs have been preserved in this sun-drenched, windy, and sandy land. In 1976, workers were collecting stones from the area for the construction of the Jiao railway line when they uncovered a total of 85 tombs dating from the Spring and Autumn period through the Qin and Han dynasties. However, the cultural artifacts unearthed from these ancient tombs were mostly simple, unremarkable items like colored pottery, wooden objects, and small pieces of bronze. Initially, the archaeologists were somewhat disappointed with the modest findings, but one tomb in particular caught their attention. Not only did it contain more than 200 golden artifacts, but it also held a mysterious female corpse. According to experts, the top of the tomb was sealed with stone, covered by a thick layer of sand, followed by a layer of pebbles, and finally the tomb chamber itself. The entire tomb was about 21.5 feet long, 13.8 feet wide, and 23.3 feet deep. A total of 8 golden plaques engraved with images of tigers, 4 golden belts shaped like tigers, 1 lion-shaped plaque, and other golden items were unearthed from the tomb. What astonished the experts the most was the giant lion-shaped plaque, weighing nearly 1 ton. Additionally, the archaeological team discovered the first lacquerware artifact from the Zhongyuan region, present-day China, in the tomb. Based on carbon-14 dating, the burial of the tomb's owner took place approximately 2,345 to 2,135 years ago. Thus, the discovery of lacquerware is of significant historical importance. So, who was the owner of this mysterious tomb? Why were there so many golden burial items placed with her? After opening the coffin, the archaeologists discovered a human skeleton. Examination revealed that the skeleton belonged to a woman who died around the age of 30. What surprised the experts the most was that the skull of the mummy had a hole in it, as if someone had shot a bullet through the skull. After extensive research, the experts were able to explain the reason for the hole. It turns out this was a common ancient surgery practiced by nomadic people in China, cranial surgery. When someone had a head illness, a hole would be drilled into the skull to relieve pain. However, the risks of this surgery were very high, and if performed incorrectly, it could result in death. According to experts, the female owner of the tomb was most likely the daughter or consort of the chieftain of the Saka tribe over 2,000 years ago. The Saka tribe, which lived and thrived in the Pamir Mountains, Tian Shan, and most of the northern part of Xinjiang, China, was well established over 3,000 years ago. They lived mostly on water and plants and officially entered a class society by the end of the 3rd century BCE, beginning to establish a state. The Saka people are mentioned in the Book of Han as playing an important role in the region of Xinjiang. This tribe had a deep reverence for gold, so most of the burial items in their tombs were made of gold. The female tomb owner may have held an important position within her tribe, as she died at just over 30 years old. Experts hypothesize she was either the daughter or consort of the Saka chieftain. However, no conclusive evidence or definitive conclusion has yet been reached about the identity of this mysterious female owner of the Golden Tomb. Therefore, her identity remains an unsolved mystery. The only mummy ever found in Africa. When you hear the word mummy, you probably immediately think of ancient Egypt with its grand pyramids, powerful pharaohs, and mysteries that have never been fully solved. But what if I told you that an ancient and perhaps extremely unusual mummy was discovered not in Egypt, not in the Americas with the Maya civilization, but right in a land seemingly unrelated to mummification? Africa, specifically in southern Africa? Yes, this is not a fictional story, but a real archaeological event, first documented in history. A male mummy was found in a shallow grave near a rocky cliff in Africa, and this discovery left the scientific community stunned. Not only because of the unexpected appearance of a mummy in a region with no tradition of mummification, but also due to the series of strange mysteries surrounding the identity and origin of this man. As soon as the mummy was discovered, a series of DNA tests and detailed analyses were conducted. The first thing that caught the attention of scientists was the peculiar position of the mummy. The man had been buried in a fetal position, resembling that of a fetus in the womb, an image that is both sacred and highly symbolic. And more interestingly, this was not a deliberate mummification like the rituals of ancient Egypt. Rather, it was a natural process of preservation caused by the dry and hot air conditions of the environment where the body was buried. So, who was this man? When did he live, and to what culture did he belong? The results of the analysis indicated that he lived during the Iron Age, a period of great importance in human history. This discovery further surprised scientists, as this period was not typically associated with any form of body preservation, let alone mummification. It seemed that his death and the way his body was preserved had turned into a historical accident of immense value, giving us the opportunity to look deep into the life and culture of ancient communities in Africa. What makes this discovery even more special is the extensive research conducted by scientist Molabogeng Bodiba. She used a special analysis method to determine the genetic origin of this mummy and concluded that the mummy, named Tuli, had close genetic ties to two modern African groups, the Sotho-Tswana and Khoisan. This is not only an archaeological discovery, but also a key that opens the door to the deep roots of indigenous ethnic groups, revealing a history that has been unwritten for thousands of years. According to ethnographic records from the Zimbabwe region, after a tribal leader passed away, special rituals would be performed, such as drying the body over a small fire before burial. However, with the Tuli mummy, there were no signs of such rituals. This further supports the idea that its preservation was purely accidental but incredibly valuable, providing us with a gift from nature itself for modern archaeology. The presence of the Tuli mummy not only shook the scientific community, but also raised many new questions about human history. Is this the only case? How many more secrets are hidden beneath the earth and rocks of vast Africa? The initial information provided by this mummy has opened a promising new chapter for archaeology, ethnology, and sociology, because every bone, every strand of DNA, whispers the story of an ancient culture that once thrived and existed strongly amidst this wild nature. The haunting scene, inside the tomb of the most powerful eunuch in Chinese history. Li Lianying, the chief eunuch of the Qing dynasty, lived within the Forbidden City across 4 imperial reigns, the Xianfeng, Tongzhai, Guangxu, and Puyi eras of ancient China. With his polished appearance, intelligence, and eloquent speech, he became the favored eunuch of Empress Dowager Cixi. In fact, she even broke traditional laws to elevate Li Lianying to the highest rank, allowing him to rise from being a mere servant to the pinnacle of power. His authority surpassed even that of the emperor and empress. In the summer of 1966, in the Haidian district of Beijing, China, the tomb of the eunuch Li Lianying was discovered on the grounds of Secondary School 61. Initially, the tomb was found by a group of about 5 to 6 ordinary people. The tomb itself covered an area of approximately 20 acres, with an impressive marble archway at the entrance. The arch was inscribed with the phrase, "The tomb of Chief Steward Li, granted by the emperor," and the columns on either side had couplets that read, "The path to clarity and enlightenment will be passed down through the ages. Great loyalty strengthens the foundation for eternity. Following the discovery, an archaeological team quickly mobilized after being notified by the public. However, due to the tomb being built on hard, three-layered soil, common for royal tombs, experts had to use excavators, working continuously for an entire week before reaching the burial chamber. Upon descending into the tomb, the team encountered a room paved with white marble, with intricate carvings on the east and west walls. This room was the burial chamber containing the coffin of Li Lianying. The coffin, painted in a deep red-purple with gold leaf, was placed on a jade platform. Surrounding the coffin were various jewels, necklaces, and copper coins inscribed with the name Li. Despite the grandeur of the tomb's offerings, the sight inside the coffin horrified the archaeologists. Lying inside the coffin was a body wrapped in a thick quilt. However, when the quilt was lifted, they found not a human body, but a pile of mushy, decayed remains. Members of the excavation team still shudder when recalling the scene. I can still remember the shape of the skull, high cheekbones and a protruding mouth. It was covered with a layer of skin, keeping the head intact. The condition of Li Lianying's remains led some to believe that grave robbers had desecrated the tomb, trampling over the body in their search for treasures. However, archaeologists did not share this view. The tomb was, in fact, well preserved and undisturbed, and the coffin was unharmed. The presence of hundreds of valuable grave goods in the tomb indicated that no one had entered the chamber prior to the excavation. Alongside Li Lianying's remains, the archaeologists also found several valuable artifacts, such as Buddhist prayer beads, gold, silver, jewels, bracelets, rings, and necklaces made of gold-infused jade from the Song Dynasty. One particularly noteworthy item was a sapphire sword from the Qing Dynasty. It is not an exaggeration to say that Li Lianying's tomb is the most extravagant eunuch tomb in history, demonstrating just how much he was favored. But what caused the remains of the most trusted eunuch of Empress Dowager Cixi to be in such a deplorable state? To answer this question, historians had to look back at the time of Li Lianying's death. In October 1908, when Empress Dowager Cixi passed away, the Li family's genealogy records state that after a 100-day mourning period, Li Lianying would retire to a residence in Beijing. There, he would spend his days practicing Buddhism, eating vegetarian food, and staying out of public life. 3 years later, Li Lianying died. Descendants of the Li family recount that he died from dysentery, passing away within 3 or 4 days after contracting the illness. Contrary to this account, historical inscriptions from the Qing dynasty indicate that Li Lianying was murdered. During Empress Dowager Cixi's reign, Li Lianying had made many enemies, and after the downfall of the imperial court, his supporters had faded, further strengthening the belief that he was killed in a gruesome manner. Another rumor circulating among the people involves Li Lianying's burial. It is said that, due to having so many enemies, he staged a false funeral, spreading rumors throughout the capital to mislead the public. His tomb was also a fake, containing only part of his body, with his true resting place located elsewhere. Based on this theory, Chinese archaeologists have also made efforts to search for clues about Li Lianying's real tomb, but to this day, no answers have been found. The vague records in historical texts, the rumors circulating among the people, and the inconsistencies in the accounts provided by the Li family have all contributed to the mystery surrounding the death of this Qing dynasty eunuch. The mystery surrounding the death of the most powerful eunuch of the Qing dynasty may one day be uncovered, or it may remain buried in the sands of time forever. The self-opening coffins in Barbados. There are countless mysterious stories around the world that remain unsolved to this day. Most of them spark curiosity, especially when they involve the supernatural or the deceased, such as the tale of the self-opening coffins in Barbados. According to the story, more than 200 years ago, a strange phenomenon occurred in the Chase family tomb on the island of Barbados in the Caribbean. The coffins inside the tomb began to move on their own. The Chase family tomb was built in the Oistins Parish Church Cemetery in Barbados around the 1720s. At first glance, it seemed like a modest structure, half buried in the ground and unremarkable compared to the surrounding tombs. However, the mysteries it has held for centuries are certainly worth paying attention to. The first body interred in this tomb was Mrs. Thomasina Clark, who was buried in July 1807, followed by her 2 daughters, Mary Ann and Maria Chase, in 1808 and 1812 respectively. Nothing unusual happened until the fourth time the tomb was opened, when the body of the girl's father was to be interred. To the astonishment of the mourners, the two small coffins of the Chase sisters had been moved from their original positions. The coffin of the younger sister was even found standing upright, with the head facing the ground. Suspecting an intrusion, the mourners moved the coffins back into place, then placed a large stone to seal the entrance to the tomb, covering it with mortar. However, in 1819, when another member of the Chase family passed away and the stone was moved to enter the body, the mystery continued. The coffins inside the tomb had once again shifted from their positions, scattered haphazardly as if they were stored in a warehouse. Meanwhile, the mortar seal on the entrance remained intact, and there were no unusual marks on the sand inside the tomb, nor any disturbances to the surrounding grave goods. The story didn't end there. Every time a new family member was buried, the coffins would mysteriously shift again, despite all efforts to protect the tomb. The events caused such a stir that the governor of Barbados at the time personally visited the tomb to inspect the situation, sealing the entrance with his own cement stamp. Months later, when the governor returned, there were no signs of tampering with the seal. However, upon opening the tomb, it was found in chaos once again. The only coffin left undisturbed was that of Mrs. Thomasina Goddard, which had rotted. The others were either standing or lying, in no apparent order. There was no evidence of any external intrusion. After this, the Chase family decided to relocate the remains of their relatives to another burial site. The tomb was abandoned and became a tourist attraction to this day. The first theory suggested was that outsiders deliberately tampered with the tomb. The Chase family had many members who were soldiers in the British Army, and they were often seen as invaders by the local population. Thus, it was believed that someone might have wanted to disturb their eternal rest. However, no evidence of external intrusion was ever found. Furthermore, the tomb was in a position that made it easy to monitor. Given the series of strange events, it was unlikely that anyone could have entered the tomb without being noticed. Another theory posited that flooding could have caused the coffins to move, but the tomb was located 98 feet above sea level and was always dry. So where could the water have come from? Some suggested that seismic activity might have been responsible. However, Barbados is not within an active volcanic zone, and if an earthquake were the cause, why didn't nearby tombs show any signs of damage? In 1957, the author Eric Frank Russell suggested that a magnetic field might have caused the lead coffins to rotate around an axis. However, lead is not typically affected by common magnetic fields, making this explanation unconvincing. As a result, the tale of the self-moving coffins has become a topic of debate among the residents of Barbados. The majority of locals believe that the restless spirits of the deceased are the ones moving their coffins. The mystery of the walking coffins continues to haunt those who visit the Chase family tomb. Have you ever visited this tomb? What do you think about this story? Do you believe in the supernatural? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss. The airplane wreckage and human remains revealed by melting ice. Switzerland has long been known as a tourist paradise, famous for its breathtaking snowy mountain landscapes, majestic Alps, and renowned ski resorts. However, few know that beneath this mysterious beauty lie strange and eerie tales, one of which is the story of the secrets uncovered at Chesgen Glacier, one of the largest glaciers in the Alps, located in the canton of Valais, southern Switzerland. About 50 years ago, an unexpected event stunned both the tourism community and researchers alike. Two French tourists visiting the Chesgen Glacier area discovered two human skeletons and an airplane wreckage during their exploration. This discovery was not only shocking because of its unusual nature, but also due to the time and untold story behind these remains. Dario Andon-Matin, the manager of the Britannia hut in the Alps, was the first to investigate and speculated that the victims might have died in the 1970s or 1980s. This was surprising because the area had been a popular destination for tourists and skiing enthusiasts in recent years. The remains were found near an old road that had been out of use for nearly a decade, further deepening the mystery about the untold stories hidden beneath the glacier. In a separate development not long afterward, Swiss authorities discovered another set of remains near the Zermatt resort, an area famous for its stunning landscapes and the Matterhorn Peak. These remains continued to stir up intrigue in the community as investigators began conducting DNA analyses. The results of this process may reveal many surprising details that had never been considered before. Climate change has also played a role in revealing these mysteries. Rising summer temperatures and prolonged heat waves across Europe have had a significant impact on Swiss glaciers, causing them to melt rapidly. This is why, in recent years, many bodies and pieces of airplane wreckage have been discovered, uncovering more mysteries surrounding accidents that occurred decades ago. In early August 2022, a tour guide discovered the wreckage of an airplane on the Aral Glacier, near the peaks of Jungfrau and Mönch. The wreckage was identified as that of a Piper Cherokee plane, which crashed on June 30, 1968. This was a missing aircraft that had been searched for over 54 years, but the answer to this mystery has only now been revealed. The melting of glaciers not only exposes the secrets of past accidents, but also highlights the rapid changes in nature in recent years. The appearance of bodies, wreckage, and historical traces on glaciers is a stark testament to the effects of climate change. Authorities have also issued warnings to tourists who go mountaineering, particularly in the Matterhorn area, where unusually high temperatures can pose risks. Switzerland, with its stunning landscapes and mysterious stories, remains an alluring destination. However, every exploration not only allows one to witness the beauty of nature, but also confronts the secrets that have been buried for decades. This makes exploring Switzerland a journey that is both fascinating and full of surprises, leaving anyone who ventures there in awe. The church decorated with 40,000 human skeletons. You may have heard of magnificent and grand architectural works such as Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris or the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but have you ever imagined a church whose entire interior, from chandeliers and chalices to family crests, is made entirely of human bones? This is not a horror movie or a wild myth. It is a real landmark that exists in the Czech Republic, known as the Sedlec Ossuary. It is one of the eeriest and most haunting places on the planet, yet it stands as a remarkable testament to how humans have turned death into art. Imagine walking through the rusty iron gate, hearing the soft crunch of moss-covered stones beneath your feet. The old wooden church doors creak open, and you step into another world. A world where death is not buried deep underground, but is vividly displayed right before your eyes. The walls are covered with skulls, thigh bones, and hip bones arranged artistically, to the point where you might want to turn and run, yet you cannot look away. The story of the Sedlec Ossuary dates back to the 13th century, when a monk on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem brought back a handful of sacred soil and scattered it over the Sedlec cemetery. From then on, this site became considered holy, and thousands of people, including nobles and commoners, sought to be buried there. But then tragedy struck. The Black Death pandemic of the 14th century wiped out nearly half of Europe's population, leaving tens of thousands of bodies that needed to be buried. Sedlec became the resting place for over 30,000 victims. In the next century, the Hussite Wars further added thousands of bodies to the cemetery. By the end of the 15th century, the cemetery ran out of space. Graves were exhumed, and the bones were collected to make room for the construction of a new chapel, which is the very place you see today. For centuries, these bones remained silently in the dark until 1870, when a skilled but eerie artist, František Rint, was hired to decorate the space with these ancient remains. Rint did not simply arrange the bones, he turned them into unimaginable works of art. The seven-branched chandelier at the center of the church is made from nearly every type of bone in the human body, a striking feature that leaves visitors speechless. Each branch and line of the chandelier exudes craftsmanship, meticulousness, and a haunting beauty. The church gate is formed from a curtain of bones, and segments of hip bones and arm bones are joined to create chalices. The family crest of the Schwarzenberg family, the patrons of the project, is affixed to the wall, made from cold white bone fragments. Although it may sound terrifying, Sedlec is not the only place in the world that embodies the brutal beauty of death. Beneath the streets of glamorous Paris lies the catacombs, stretching 186 miles deep, 197 feet underground, containing up to 6 million human skeletons, a city of the dead beneath a living city. Additionally, in the Czech Republic, alongside Sedlec, there is the Brno Ossuary, home to over 50,000 skeletons, all stark reminders of war, plague, and death. Sedlec is not just an unusual architectural structure. It is where history, religion, art, and death converge. Here, Bones are not merely the remains of lost lives. They have become a language telling the story of centuries past. A story that anyone who steps inside will never forget. Do you have the courage to visit the Sedlec ossuary? If so, I think it would make an ideal trip for your next vacation. The frescoes and human remains at Pompeii. When we think about ancient cities, the image of ruins and remnants often comes to mind. However, few people realize that beneath the layers of ash from the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, a historical treasure is being uncovered every day. The city of Pompeii, with traces of daily life, continues to astonish and captivate the modern world with its discoveries. In 2024, archaeologists took us back to the secrets of the past through fascinating finds, including impressive frescoes and perfectly preserved human remains. Let's start in March, when archaeologists uncovered a fresco depicting a tragic story from Greek mythology. The painting shows Phrixus and Helle, twin siblings who were attacked by their stepmother and had to flee. In her final moments, Helle is swept away by the waves while reaching out to her brother, who is riding the mythical golden-fleeced ram. This fresco, found in a house excavated in 2018, is not only a beautiful work of art, but also a window into legendary stories from the past. Notably, in the same area, archaeologists also discovered two more ancient houses, bringing us even closer to the daily lives of the people of Pompeii. In April, a special discovery was revealed. A large banquet hall was uncovered, with frescoes painted along its black-painted walls. These paintings are not just decorative, they tell a profound story from the Trojan War. When the soft light of burning lamps illuminated the room, the frescoes seemed to come to life, depicting grand legendary scenes. The finely preserved mosaic floor of the room, nearly perfect, left people in awe of the skill and creativity of ancient Romans. This banquet hall was part of a large house where the previously discovered laundry shops and bakeries were just small details in the broader picture of Pompeii's commercial and everyday life. As summer approached, more discoveries continued to astonish. A shrine room was uncovered with green walls and images of women representing the four seasons. These images not only depicted the beauty of nature, but also reflected a strong belief in agriculture and livestock. These images were likely used in worship rituals, as artifacts like wine vessels and oil lamps were also found in this shrine. Every detail, from the colors to the objects, indicates that this was a sacred space where the people of Pompeii sought protection from the gods. In August, archaeologists made another shocking discovery. In a small bedroom, the remains of a couple were found, along with a small treasure of valuable objects. What's particularly remarkable is that the traces of the objects in the room allowed researchers to precisely recreate the room's layout at the time of the disaster. A wooden bed, a marble table, and various objects made of copper, ceramics, and glass all seem to be perfectly preserved, creating a vivid picture of the lives of those who were tragically buried by the wrath of Mount Vesuvius. And we cannot overlook October, when a small house with erotic frescoes was uncovered. These works were shocking due to their boldness, but they also opened new perspectives on Roman culture and art. One painting depicts Princess Phaedra and the tragic sexual story with her stepson, Hippolytus, while another scene portrays the painful love story between Venus and Adonis. These paintings, though controversial, are an essential part of the complex and diverse life of ancient Roman society. As you can see, each discovery, whether it's a small painting or a set of human remains, brings us untold stories and unsolved mysteries from the past. What Pompeii has left behind is not just dry ruins, but vibrant pieces of a magnificent civilization buried in ash for thousands of years. And perhaps, there are still many more secrets yet to be uncovered here. A 4,000-year-old city in Saudi Arabia. Recently, a team of French and Saudi archaeologists uncovered a 4,000-year-old ancient city hidden beneath an oasis in Saudi Arabia, located in the northwest region of the Arabian Peninsula. This city is not just a relic of the past, but also a key that unlocks a deeper understanding of humanity's remarkable transition from a nomadic lifestyle to urban living. Led by French archaeologist Guillaume Charloux, the new research published in PLOS 1 revealed an astonishing fact. The ancient city of Al-Nata, once home to people around 2400 BCE, had remained concealed for thousands of years beneath the Khaybar Oasis, a lush area in the middle of the vast desert. This area, which was prosperous, could have been the development center of a relatively advanced civilization during the Bronze Age, while other parts of the Arabian Peninsula were still dry and barren lands used primarily by nomadic tribes for livestock herding. So, what protected this city from the ravages of time? The answer lies in the black basalt volcanic stones that encase the city walls of Al-Nata, keeping its ruins almost untouched for millennia. This natural protection not only helped preserve the city, but also allowed archaeologists to easily discover the foundations of about 50 houses, along with a 9-mile wall, an impressive fortress on par with other ancient cities of the time. Covering approximately 6.4 acres, Al-Nata was not just an ordinary village, but was likely home to about 500 people, with inhabitants living and working in 2-story houses. Even more fascinating, the archaeologists didn't just uncover architectural structures, they also found a burial site with unusual tombs. Inside these tombs, scientists discovered metal weapons such as axes and daggers, along with precious stones like agate, reflecting a society with high craftsmanship and technological skills. Pottery remains further indicated a balanced and stable society, with no apparent sharp distinctions between social classes. What makes Al-Nata so special? It is the city's transformation from a nomadic community to an urban society. When Al-Nata was built, the area was still a barren desert with no signs of permanent settlements. However, the latest discoveries clearly show an evolution in the way people lived, from nomadic livestock herders to settlers creating organized and structured communities. The 16-feet-high fortifications of Al-Nata stand as undeniable proof of a strong local governance, overseeing and protecting a community that was gradually evolving into an urban society. This raises the question, could Al-Nata be part of a larger series of changes in human history? The discovery of this city could be the key to unraveling the transition from a nomadic lifestyle to more stable communities, paving the way for the development of urban civilizations in the region. From this, we can begin to imagine the early cities emerging, marking the dawn of a new era in human history. Undoubtedly, Al-Nata is not just an archaeological site, but also a living testament to an ongoing process of urbanization that we are still studying and exploring. Imagine in the future, as we dig deeper into these basalt rocks and foundations, the stories of this ancient civilization will continue to reveal secrets of the past and teach us valuable lessons about human development. So, what do you think about this discovery? Could Al-Nata be one of the first foundational stones in the development of ancient urban civilizations? The 2,600-year-old tomb, containing the mysterious silver hands. In 2012, a team of archaeologists set out to find the legendary Sun and Moon tomb of the Etruscans. However, instead of discovering what they expected, they stumbled upon a strange treasure, the Silver Hands tomb. This discovery has provided us with invaluable insights into a long-lost civilization. So, what makes this tomb so special? To answer that question, we need to return to the location where the team made their discovery, an area called Vulci, located about 75 miles northeast of Rome. There, the archaeologists unearthed several ancient tombs in the Necropoli dell'Osteria cemetery, which contains Etruscan burials from the 4th to 7th centuries BCE. While this area was once famous, by the mid-18th century, the exact location of the Sun and Moon tomb became unclear. However, the research team, led by Carlo Cassi, did not give up. They continued searching and finally uncovered a tomb unlike any other, the Silver Hands tomb. The tomb's name comes from an unexpected discovery: 2 intact silver hands found within the burial chamber. What was particularly remarkable was that the left hand was almost perfectly preserved, indicating the Etruscans had highly advanced craftsmanship skills. These silver hands were meticulously crafted, with the palms open, and traces of gold were found on the fingers, especially on the nails, revealing a combination of silver and gold, a level of skill that only master artisans could achieve. So, who did this tomb belong to? The archaeologists believe this tomb belonged to a wealthy Etruscan family, based on its location within the burial complex and the number of grave goods discovered. The Etruscans were famous for their intricate crafts, particularly in bronze and gold. Although their origins remain a mystery in academic circles, the Etruscans left behind a rich legacy, especially in creating highly artistic objects. Interestingly, although the silver hands seem unusual, they were related to an ancient burial ritual influenced by the Greeks. Archaeologists believe the silver hands may have been part of a spireleton, wooden funeral effigies used to protect the soul of the deceased. These effigies could take various forms, from warriors to representations of the deceased. In this case, the effigy was shaped like a woman, possibly the person buried in the tomb. In addition to the silver hands, the archaeologists uncovered other intriguing details, such as purple cloth used to fasten gold buttons to the effigy's clothing, along with gold spheres, amber, and bone beads, which likely belonged to a necklace. These findings give us a clearer picture of the life and death of a member of the Etruscan family. Although we cannot yet identify the exact person buried there, the Silver Hands tomb offers us a precious glimpse into a civilization that disappeared thousands of years ago. Every discovery in this tomb, from the silver hands to the decorative items, tells a story about the Etruscans' art, beliefs, and way of life, a mysterious civilization that we are still trying to fully understand. The 2,000-year-old letter in a tomb. Located in a strategic area with excellent feng shui, the ancient capital of the state of Chu during the Eastern Zhou period, today located north of Jingzhou City in Hubei Province, central China, became the resting place for many nobles, high-ranking officials, and royal figures from both the Qin and Han dynasties. As a result, the area has been carefully preserved since the 1950s, with large-scale excavations only beginning in 1973. During the excavation of tomb number 168 from the Western Han dynasty, archaeologists discovered a well-preserved body, with not only the internal organs intact, but also skin that still retained some elasticity. For a development that occurred over 2,000 years ago, this technique was nothing short of a miracle. Later, a large number of burial items were found in the tomb, including bamboo slips placed next to the deceased's body, which piqued the curiosity of the experts, prompting them to restore the text on them. Since objects placed next to the deceased were likely of great importance, they quickly began deciphering the writings. Once restored, archaeologists revealed that the bamboo slip was a letter the deceased had written to the king of the underworld, or Yan Wang, upon his death. The letter began with, "In the 13th year of the Jia Shun year, the official assistant at Jiangling respectfully reports to the assistant in the underworld," meaning the tomb's owner was seeking permission from Yan Wang in the afterlife. The letter continued by stating that the deceased had brought a large number of guards, maidservants, and many valuable items as part of the burial goods. The final request read, "If possible, grant me the position of an official post." The tone of the letter made the archaeologists chuckle, as the deceased had hoped to receive a bit of favor in the afterlife by securing an official title, despite taking so much wealth and beauty with him to the underworld. The contents of the letter made the identity of the tomb's owner even more intriguing to the excavation team. After identification, they confirmed that the tomb's owner was named Sui and held the position of Wu Daifu during the Western Han dynasty, placing him in the middle-tier nobility of the time. In life, he was likely a noble who enjoyed great wealth and luxury, which would explain the large number of soldiers and servants buried with him. Even in death, he hoped to use his wealth to exchange for a government position in the afterlife. This request, while humorous, was quite common according to the archaeologists, who explained that such letters to Yan Wang were a well-known burial custom during the Qin and Han dynasties called Gao Di Shu, letters to the underworld. However, requesting a position so directly was rare. It's possible that this was also a tactic the tomb's owner used during his life to gain position and enjoy his wealth. A 1,000-year-old ancestral tomb. In November 2006, police in Xi'an, Shanxi Province, China, uncovered a smuggling case involving 129 cultural relics, including stone tablets from a Song Dynasty tomb. According to the smugglers' confessions, all 129 artifacts had been looted from a nearby ancient tomb by a man distantly related to the tomb's owner, who unearthed them and sold them. The Shanxi Provincial Cultural Relics Bureau, which was already familiar with cases of tomb looting and unexpected archaeological finds at construction sites, quickly located the site and promptly began emergency excavation. Archaeologists later confirmed that it was, in fact, a massive cemetery covering nearly 22 acres, located in Lantian County, Shanxi Province. This burial site belonged to 5 generations of the Liu family during the Song Dynasty, with the tombs arranged along a central axis. Along this north-south axis, the tombs of the eldest sons and their grandsons were aligned vertically, while others were placed horizontally based on familial hierarchy. The tomb system employed a unique anti-theft design known as the tomb-over-tomb layout. The burial chambers were dug deep into hard rock, with the deepest tomb reaching about 51 feet and the shallowest about 25 feet. The tombs were complex, with multiple chambers, front, rear, and parallel rooms. The upper chambers were often empty decoys, while the lowest one contained the actual coffin and significant burial items. This clever setup forced tomb robbers to dig through layer after layer without knowing which chamber was real. Ancient tomb raiders, armed only with basic shovels, would have had great difficulty reaching the main burial chamber. Even if they did, they risked being buried alive due to landslides or suffocating from lack of oxygen, a danger often misinterpreted as exposure to toxic gas, when in fact it was oxygen deprivation from being underground for too long. During the excavation, archaeologists themselves nearly fell victim to these deadly traps. However, their efforts paid off when the grand discovery helped solve a major mystery. Who was this noble family? The answer? The Liu family, descendants of Liu Dalin, 1044 to 1092, a Song dynasty figure revered as the founding father of Chinese archaeology. Liu Dalin was the first Chinese scholar to study ancient bronze artifacts and inscriptions. He authored 2 pioneering works, Caogu Tu and Caogu Tu Wen, which laid the foundation for archaeology and paleontology in China. In these books, Liu provided meticulous sketches, classifications, and scientific descriptions of ancient objects, including discovery time, location, and dimensions. Liu dedicated much of his life to Confucian studies, but in his later years, he began collecting bronze artifacts. Ironically, however, no bronzes were found in his tomb. Archaeologists suspect they were stolen by grave robbers. Only 70 artifacts, mostly porcelain, were buried with him. Despite the loss, the remaining items were exquisitely crafted, reflecting the refined taste and cultured lifestyle of the scholar. Although the tomb complex had been looted several times by modern-day robbers, many of whom were likely descendants of the Liu family, archaeologists were still able to recover more than 600 finely crafted artifacts. These included ceramics, porcelain, bronze, gold and silver items, and lacquerware, mostly everyday household objects. They offer a rare glimpse into the living conditions of a noble family during the Song dynasty. A large number of tea sets were also unearthed, confirming that tea was a common drink among the aristocracy of that era. One particularly fascinating find came from the tomb of Liu Dalin's granddaughter, Liu Qianrong. Inside a silver box was a reddish powder. Laboratory analysis revealed it to be a type of facial powder used by women for makeup. Remarkably, after 1,000 years, the chemical composition of the powder had not changed. A truly impressive archaeological discovery, wouldn't you agree? A massive treasure, hidden inside an ancient tomb. Can you imagine that beneath the roots of an ordinary tree in a quiet, untouched park could lie an entire world of splendor, mystery, and bone-chilling eeriness? The strange and captivating story I'm about to tell you isn't science fiction. It's 100% real. It's a groundbreaking archaeological discovery recently made at El Caño Archaeological Park in Panama, where scientists unearthed an ancient tomb that held not only a treasure trove of gold, but also deeply legendary and spiritual secrets from a once glorious civilization that had almost been forgotten. The burial chamber, dating back more than 200 years, was the final resting place of a chief from the ancient Kokle culture, a civilization that thrived around the 8th century AD. What shocked researchers wasn't just the sheer number of artifacts, but the epic and spiritual stories each glittering gold item seemed to tell. Inside the tomb, archaeologists found dozens of gold artifacts, bracelets, crocodile-shaped earrings, gold-beaded belts, and even a strange skirt made from dog teeth. Most striking of all was a set of flutes made from human bones, as if every note played would whisper tales from the dead. Each artifact bore the mystical markings and sacred symbols of the Kokle people, a tribe that believed life after death wasn't the end, but rather a beginning. The chief, believed to have been around 30 years old at the time of death, was not alone in his eternal sleep. Beneath him lay the body of a woman, and surrounding him were 31 others, who may have been sacrificed to serve him in the afterlife. These bodies were arranged as if to physically support their leader, creating a unique and haunting human pedestal. Among the buried was also a child dressed in gold-plated clothing, likely the chief's son, according to archaeologists. But the discoveries didn't end there. A jar filled with bones of poisonous pufferfish was found next to the bodies, raising the possibility that the sacrificial victims may have died from poisoning. Adding to the mystery were upside-down ceramic plates placed over the corpses, all of them decorated on the underside, as if specifically designed to cover death. No one has yet deciphered the true meaning of this practice, but it deepens the shroud of mystery surrounding the burial site. Even more fascinating were the strange creatures carved into the jewelry and burial items, half-human, half-animal figures, and mythical beings believed by experts to represent ancestors or even the spiritual embodiment of warrior souls. Some suggest they function similarly to modern-day mascots, symbols meant to empower and inspire in battle. Perhaps this is a fascinating connection between ancient culture and the modern world, one that we simply can't help but marvel at. The mummy found beneath the pyramid. Deep beneath a pyramid in Peru, an ancient mummy was discovered inside a lavish, gold-covered tomb. This underground burial site had kept its secrets hidden for 1,600 years, until archaeologists noticed unusual patterns in the soil above. A perfect rectangular patch of earth that suggested something unnatural lay below. The tomb and mummy were found at one of Peru's most sacred sites, the El Brujo Pyramid, an ancient ceremonial ground of the Moche people. The Moche civilization thrived between 100 and 800 AD, and a tomb of such significance likely belonged to a king or high-ranking warrior. But the real question was, who was buried here, and what treasures did the tomb contain? After weeks of meticulous excavation, scientists finally uncovered the mystery. It turned out to be one of the most elaborate personal tombs ever found. Alongside the burial were hundreds of exquisite treasures, golden necklaces and bracelets, nose rings, and more. But the biggest surprise came when researchers removed a gold plate about the size of a bowl from the face of the mummy. The body was not that of a king or warrior, but of a young Moche woman. Even more astonishing, her skin was covered in tattoos. Studies show that men were typically the dominant figures in Moche society. So why was a woman, barely 20 years old, honored with such a magnificent burial? Was she a queen? A high priestess? Or perhaps a warrior woman who earned great respect in battle? One major mystery still puzzles researchers: the meaning behind her tattoos. Her body was covered with depictions of animals, snakes, spiders, crabs, and other bizarre crawling creatures, inked along her arms, hands, legs, and feet. She had more tattoos than any other known Moche remains. The Moche believed tattoos were used to pray for good harvests, and clearly, this woman held great spiritual importance. Even more astonishing, she was buried with 23 spears, while powerful men in Moche society were typically buried with just one or two. This suggests she may have been a figure of military or ceremonial significance. But why did she die so young? Her skull shows no signs of disease or injury. Some experts suspect she died during childbirth, but no theory is confirmed. While many questions remain unanswered, this heroine's tomb is helping scientists piece together not just her life, but the world of the Moche civilization. What do you think? What could those strange tattoos mean? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to discuss it with you. The White Tomb on the Rock of Lovers. You've probably heard of ancient wonders like the pyramids of Giza or Stonehenge, mysterious monuments full of questions still unanswered. But have you ever heard of La Peña de los Enamorados or the Rock of Lovers in Spain? If you haven't, here's a fascinating fact. It's a massive rock formation rising 12,900 feet high, nestled in the sunny, windswept region of Andalusia, roughly 285 miles southwest of Madrid. From a distance, the rock eerily resembles the face of a sleeping giant, forming a scene so dreamy and surreal that it feels like a fairy tale frozen in stone. But that striking silhouette is just the beginning. Deep inside the chest of this stone giant lies a secret that's been buried for millennia, a mysterious tomb known locally as the White Tomb. Originally just a historical site for archaeology enthusiasts, the tomb was recently re-excavated by a team led by Professor Leonardo Garcia San Juan from the University of Seville, and what they uncovered stunned the world. According to the team, the tomb was more than a burial place. It was an ancient observatory, a scientific structure built to track the skies, mark agricultural seasons, and host religious rituals. The people who lived here around 3000 BC placed each stone with mind-blowing precision, aligning the architecture with solar movements and astronomical events such as the spring and fall equinoxes, summer solstice, and winter solstice. Inside the White Tomb, archaeologists discovered some of the oldest purposefully arranged megaliths, along with pottery from the same era, showing the tomb served as both a spiritual and astronomical center over a long period of time. Among the most shocking finds were 45 human teeth and 95 bone fragments, evidence of ancient burial rituals where bodies were placed on stone platforms and later moved after decomposition as part of the ceremony. Around 2500 BC, the tomb was expanded to include 2 stone niches, likely the resting places of a high-ranking man and woman. But the story doesn't end there. In later periods, archaeologists found the tomb was altered again, the entrance sealed with massive stones, and additional remains of at least 2 children and 3 women were placed inside. Over 3 different eras of use, this single tomb became a living record of prehistoric life, belief, and death, until it was finally sealed between 1950 and 1180 BC. What left researchers in awe was the architectural precision. Stone slabs were aligned to capture the sunrise on June 21st, the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. The sunlight would shine directly into a deep chamber in the tomb, forming a sacred ritual in worship of the sun god. A triangular stone, firmly embedded in the floor, pointed straight toward the sunrise, an undeniable sign of the ancient builders' advanced understanding of astronomy. The largest megalith was also placed perfectly, turning the entire structure into a gigantic stone clock, where time, light, and spirituality merged as one. Once just a tragic love story carved into rock, the Rock of Lovers has now become a symbol of ancient human intelligence, a reminder that thousands of years ago, our ancestors looked up at the sky not just to dream, but to understand themselves. What do you think if I told you our ancestors, using only stone, sunlight, and belief, built one of humanity's earliest astronomical observatories, leaving behind a mystery we're only just beginning to unravel? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The 220 pounds of gold in a dry well in China. One morning that seemed like any other, in a small village on the northern outskirts of Xi'an, China, where life passed quietly with its slow and familiar rhythms, suddenly became the focal point of the global archaeological community. While the local villagers were diligently digging a dry well in search of a new water source for the village, they had no idea that they were about to become witnesses to one of the most spectacular archaeological discoveries of the century. Deep within the earth, which seemed to be lifeless, a colossal treasure unexpectedly emerged. Over 220 pounds of pure gold, carefully buried for thousands of years. This shocking news quickly spread, causing the small village to erupt in astonishment, and it wasn't long before archaeologists from all over the world began flocking to the site. The location of the discovery was not a nameless land. It had once been home to many ancient cultures, a place where historical, cultural, and trade flows had converged in ancient China. This fact made the find not just a gold discovery, but also a window into the deep mysteries of the ancient economy that flourished over 1800 years ago. As the excavation progressed systematically, the findings left scientists astounded. The gold had been cast into pieces, resembling cakes, a design that was far from accidental. Each gold cake weighed between 0.5 and 0.56 pounds, and the remarkable uniformity of these pieces showed that the casting technology of the late Han period had reached an advanced level, reflecting the precision and care in financial management at the time. These were not just assets, they were currency, a vivid testament to the robust trade system of the Han Dynasty, one of the most powerful and influential dynasties in Chinese history. According to experts, gold in the Han era was not only hoarded as treasure, but was also widely used in daily transactions, much like paper money or credit cards today. The casting of gold into smaller pieces made transportation and exchange more flexible and convenient. This further reinforces the reality that the Han economy was not solely reliant on agriculture, as many had assumed, but was closely tied to trade, the exchange of goods, and large-scale financial management. But what makes this story even more intriguing is why such a large amount of gold was buried in a dry well in the middle of a village. Archaeologists suspect that during the late period of the Han Dynasty, when the society was in turmoil and the government was overthrown, particularly during the collapse of the Han Dynasty and the rise of the Wang Mang regime, many people feared that their property would be confiscated or looted, so they chose to bury their gold to protect their wealth. Over the centuries, these gold cakes were buried under layers of time, hidden beneath a layer of dust and forgotten stories until today. Currently, the archaeological team is still tirelessly searching for traces of the exact origin of the treasure and the identities of its original owners. While there are still many unanswered questions, this discovery has illuminated an important chapter in the history of ancient Chinese trade and economics. At the same time, it serves as a reminder that sometimes great mysteries lie right beneath our feet. With just a little bit of luck, a random shovel strike, history can be rewritten. The oldest runestone in the world. In the heart of the cold lands of northern Europe, where snow blankets the hills and history lies dormant beneath the ancient earth, a shocking discovery has awakened the thousand-year-old memories of the Vikings. On January 17th, Norwegian archaeologists announced a groundbreaking discovery in the study of European writing history, the oldest known runestone in the world, dating back nearly 2,000 years. This discovery not only sent shockwaves through the archaeological community, but also sparked a wave of questions about the origins of language, civilization, and the unsolved mysteries of the ancient Norse people. This stone, measuring about 12 inches, is made of brown sandstone and has a crude square shape. It was unearthed in late 2024 at the Tyrifjorden area, a peaceful region to the northwest of Oslo, the capital of Norway. However, what makes this stone particularly special is not its size, but the runic inscription etched on its surface, a seemingly simple phrase that holds an entire chapter of forgotten history. The inscription, when transliterated into the Latin alphabet, reads Idibarug. To this day, researchers have not been able to determine its exact meaning. It is speculated that it could be a name of a person buried in the grave, a prayer, or perhaps even an ancient code yet to be deciphered. Through carbon analysis of bones and wood found within the tomb, scientists have determined that the stone dates from around the years 1 to 250 AD. This makes it the oldest known evidence of the rune writing system, predating earlier records which suggested runic characters first appeared around the 3rd or 4th century AD. With this discovery, history has once again been rewritten, forcing us to reconsider our previous understanding of the origins and development of writing systems in Europe. Crystal Zilmer, a leading expert on runes at the Oslo Museum of Cultural History, described the stone as a unique find. It is not just an archaeological artifact, but a whisper from the ancient Scandinavian ancestors to future generations, a crucial piece of the Viking civilization's puzzle, which has always been shrouded in the mists of legend and myth. Runes were the oldest writing system used by the Vikings and the Germanic peoples throughout Scandinavia. Instead of being written on paper or parchment like many other cultures, runes were often carved into stone. Large, primitive-shaped stones erected at burial sites as a form of memorial and sacred communication with the afterlife. However, very few rune stones can compare in age and preservation to this discovery. The existence of the inscription on the Tyrifjorden stone has shattered long-held assumptions and opened new pathways in the study of ancient Northern European history. If runes were in use as early as the beginning of the Common Era, it means the Norse people developed their written language system much earlier than previously thought, early enough to be compared with other advanced civilizations of the same period. And perhaps there are many more stones still resting somewhere in the cold earth, waiting for a day when they will be unearthed to further illuminate the dark corners of the past. The 2,000-year-old grave of a female warrior from the Iron Age. Off the southwestern coast of England, amidst the mist and gentle waves surrounding the Scilly Isles, lies a small island called Briar, a place long forgotten by the currents of history for thousands of years. However, in 1999, when archaeologists began excavating an ancient burial site on this island, they had no idea they were about to uncover a mystery that would completely change our view of women's roles in ancient warfare. Deep within the earth, they discovered an unusual tomb, the resting place of an Iron Age warrior, and no one expected that the person in this tomb would be a female warrior. The story began when the team unearthed heavily decayed remains with only a dark outline etched in the soil, the last traces of a person who lived over 2,000 years ago. Next to the skeletal remains were a bronze alloy sword and a shield, typical symbols of male warriors from that era. But what puzzled researchers were other items in the tomb: a hairpin and a bronze mirror, artifacts associated with women in burial rituals of the Iron Age. Was this a male warrior's tomb containing female items? Or was it truly the burial place of a female warrior, something rarely recorded in European archaeological records? The answer slowly became clear when the research team applied modern tooth enamel analysis techniques at the University of California. Using methods to identify proteins linked to X and Y chromosomes, which are much more durable than DNA, scientists determined a 96% likelihood that the person in the grave was female. This discovery was groundbreaking, not only because it challenged long-standing perceptions of women's roles in ancient societies, but also because it showed that, as early as the Iron Age, women could hold combat roles and even leadership positions in fierce battles. The tomb dates back to around 100 to 50 BCE, a period of upheaval for the Celts in Britain, just before the Roman Empire arrived. From the excavated items, archaeologists speculated that this woman may have been a military leader, someone who commanded raids into enemy territories, or even a symbol of power in her local community. Biologist Sarah Stark from Historic England stated, "We may never fully understand the symbolism of the burial items, but the combination of the mirror and the sword is the clearest declaration of this woman's status, not only as a warrior, but as a leader." Even more interesting, this is the only grave ever discovered in Western Europe containing both a mirror and a shield, two seemingly opposing symbols that coexisted in a sacred space, as a statement that gender did not determine one's role in battle. It was the spirit and ability that mattered. Today, these valuable artifacts are displayed at the Scilly Isles Museum on St. Mary's Island, as part of an ongoing historical narrative being rewritten daily. This discovery not only sheds light on the history of the Celts, the mysterious warriors who once ruled much of Europe before the Roman era, but also opens the door to reconsidering the role of women in ancient civilizations. While most ancient histories celebrated male generals, the tomb on Briar tells a different story, that there were women who bravely took up arms, defended their territories, and inspired future generations. Much like the warrior queen Boudica, who led the Iceni tribe against the mighty Roman Empire in 60 CE. The question now is no longer, were there female warriors in the Iron Age? But rather, how many of them are still buried in history, unacknowledged? The 29-week-old fetal remains. On a gloomy April morning in 2009, as the ground shook violently from a 6.3 magnitude earthquake in L'Aquila, Italy, all eyes turned to the collapsed buildings, the desperate cries for help, and the overwhelming grief of over 300 lives lost in an instant. But amidst this devastation, no one expected that beneath the floor of an ancient church that had just collapsed in the quake lay a secret that had been buried for over 180 years, the remains of a fetus just 29 weeks old. When the archaeological team began excavating the site, they didn't just find the remains of adults, but also discovered a particularly small set of remains. It was the skeleton of an unborn child who never had the chance to take its first breath, lying silently in the darkness of the church's crypt. According to experts from the University of Chieti, these remains belonged to a fetus from around 1840, a time when modern medicine was still a distant dream, and social taboos surrounding reproduction were still deeply oppressive. Using modern X-ray technology, researchers discovered something unusual. The bones of the fetus were not connected as they should have been. The skull was fragmented in multiple places, the spine was broken, and the arms were completely detached from the body. This was not the result of natural decomposition, but clear evidence of a brutal and controversial procedure known as embryotomy. This procedure, common during the Middle Ages and carried out sporadically until the 19th century, was a form of primitive abortion. Tools like sticks or metal rods were used to remove the fetus, whether alive or dead, from the mother's body. Embryotomy was sometimes performed for medical reasons, but it could also stem from societal stigma or harsh circumstances that the woman of the time had to endure. We will never know exactly what happened to the mother of this fetus. Was she a victim of societal pressures, or was she subject to strict religious regulations? That question may never have an answer. What makes this discovery particularly significant, however, is not only its archaeological value, but also the way the local community in Italy once chose to treat a life that never had the opportunity to be born. Experts carefully gathered and reassembled each part of the remains in their original position as a final act of respect for the child. In a world where death is often forgotten, this reverence serves as a testament to human compassion. Even if delayed, it still exists in the hearts of people. An earthquake shook the earth, but it also inadvertently uncovered long-forgotten mysteries. The remains of a 29-week-old fetus now stand as a reminder of a painful past, of life and death choices, and of the compassion people can show one another, even at the extremes of life and death. The 130-year-old sensitive underwear of an Inuit woman. Amid the icy expanse of Greenland, where life struggles daily to survive in the harsh temperatures, archaeologists have recently uncovered an astonishing artifact, a pair of women's thong underwear, crafted entirely from sealskin and fur. This is not the modern lingerie we are accustomed to, but a vivid testament to the skill, creativity, and fashion sense of the Inuit people, the indigenous community living in the Arctic during the 19th century. This unique garment, dating back approximately 130 years, once belonged to an Inuit woman living in the cold lands of Greenland. What makes it particularly remarkable is not just the materials used or its bold design, but how the woman of that time used it as a symbol of personal identity and status within her community. Far more than a mere protective garment, these underwear were intricately decorated with glass beads, soft fur strips on the front and sides, resembling a true fashion accessory. According to Peter Toft, an expert in fur garments at the National Museum of Denmark, Inuit women wore these thong-style undergarments when receiving visitors or visiting family. In daily life, they wore them with confidence and pride, viewing them as part of their personal identity. The meticulous stitching and detailed embellishments show the woman's craftsmanship and refined taste. It can be imagined that in the freezing cold of the far north, within the warm sealskin tents, these small undergarments were considered a highlight of grace and femininity. Of course, when stepping into the harsh outdoors, where the biting cold winds could freeze the skin, Inuit women would wear multiple layers of heavier clothing to keep warm. They used caribou fur and other animal hides to make protective garments. But beneath it all, the sealskin underwear remained an essential layer. Not only did it keep them warm, but it also had windproof qualities, prevented water from seeping through, and most importantly, helped prevent sweat from freezing. One of the major dangers in Arctic weather, seals, which live along the eastern coast of Greenland, have long been a vital resource for the Inuit. They hunted seals not only for meat, but also used their precious skins to create various items: clothing, footwear, kayaks, and ropes. Once the hunt was completed, Inuit women took on the task of cleaning the hides, removing excess fat and meat, and then processing and sewing them together using handmade needles. This process required meticulous care and patience, a skill passed down through generations in Inuit culture. Now, these sealskin thong undergarments no longer lie hidden in the ice. They have been carefully restored and are on display at the National Museum of Denmark, where thousands of visitors can admire and gain a sense of the unique beauty of ancient Inuit culture. A small item, but one that tells a story of adaptation, creativity, and the pride of women in the far north. If you wish to witness the craftsmanship of the Inuit, a trip to the museum in Denmark would be quite ideal. The Egyptian woman's skeleton, adorned with gold. Egypt, the mysterious land along the Nile River, once the cradle of one of the most magnificent civilizations in the ancient world. The towering pyramids, the colossal Sphinx statues, and countless grand temples continue to captivate archaeologists and explorers alike. Recently, in Luxor, southern Egypt, specifically in a tomb area beneath the temple of Pharaoh Thutmose III, the powerful king who ruled Egypt from 1490 to 1436 BCE, Spanish archaeologists, while conducting excavations, accidentally discovered a large stone that had collapsed and blocked the passage. As they cleared the layers of earth and debris that had covered the site for millennia, they uncovered the skeleton of a woman, still adorned with jewelry, as if time had not touched it at all. The woman, believed to be around 30 years old, had peacefully rested in darkness for thousands of years. Around her neck was a finely crafted necklace adorned with a sparkling gold pendant, a clear symbol of high social status. On both her wrists were gold bracelets connected by delicate chains, each crafted with meticulous detail. Around her ankles was a graceful silver anklet, though slightly worn with age, it still exuded elegance and nobility. According to archaeologist Miriam Secco, director of the Thutmose Third Temple project, the large stone that fell onto the tomb was an accidental tragedy. It is believed that this woman was in the midst of preparing for the mummification ritual, a sacred ceremony to guide the soul to the afterlife, when the unforeseen disaster struck, halting everything in an eternal moment. Ironically, this collapse may have created a natural protective layer, preserving the skeleton and jewelry in nearly pristine condition until today. The excavation didn't stop there. It also revealed many other mysterious tombs. Archaeologists continued to find several unfamiliar ancient graves, many of which had been destroyed since ancient times. They are still working tirelessly to clean, restore, and analyze the artifacts, hoping to unveil the history of the luxurious and royal lives of ancient Egyptian nobility, those who lived, loved, and passed away in an age of grandeur, power, and mystique. Ancient Hell Prison Torture Complex. Archaeologists from the Department of Science and History at Uludağ University, Turkey, recently uncovered a crypt complex featuring torture chambers and tunnels guiding prisoners to the afterlife, part of the ancient Bithynian kingdom, existing from 297 to 274 BCE. Surveys indicate this cave system, dating back approximately 2,300 years, is a surviving ancient site in Bursa, Turkey. Inside, the complex contains numerous torture chambers, deadly pits, and traces of blood. These torture rooms and dungeons, buried beneath the foundations of homes in the area, are interconnected. Lead researcher Ibrahim Yilmaz from Uludağ University stated, "A tunnel stretching about 2.1 miles, winding through the city and urban areas of Bursa, holds many mysteries." Examining the blood traces and cross-referencing historical records, experts found that ancient people employed harsh torture methods. Prisoners were hanged for periods, tortured until they became mute or deaf, and in some cases, beheaded mercilessly with their heads thrown into wells. Meanwhile, the remaining body parts were returned to the prisoners' families. However, Yilmaz noted that families could pay a certain price to retrieve an intact body. Archaeologists are still studying these unique torture chambers. Plans are underway to transform the site into an open-air museum, shedding light on a dark corner of ancient life. This discovery highlights the extreme hardships people endured for survival in the past. If it were you, would you want to live in such an era? Massive ancient Egyptian sarcophagus. In the Valley of the Pharaohs, the sacred resting place of ancient Egypt's most powerful kings, archaeologists uncovered a colossal granite sarcophagus believed to be the final resting place of Pharaoh Merneptah, who ruled over 3,200 years ago. What stunned researchers wasn't just the identity of its occupant, but the sarcophagus's immense size and the thrilling story behind its placement in the tomb. Measuring over 13 feet long, 7.5 feet wide, and 8.2 feet tall, it is the largest stone sarcophagus ever discovered for a pharaoh. Transporting such a massive stone block through the narrow corridors of an ancient tomb was a timeless feat. Dr. Edwin Brock, an archaeologist from the Royal Ontario Museum in Canada and leader of the study, couldn't hide his amazement, stating, "We've never seen a stone sarcophagus of this size and craftsmanship. It's a stunning testament to the engineering and spiritual beliefs of ancient Egyptians." Researchers believe the sarcophagus's pieces were fully assembled before being moved into the tomb using a pulley system of ropes and wooden beams. However, a bizarre issue arose during construction. The sarcophagus didn't fit through the tomb's entrance. This was likely a grave error for such a sacred project, almost unimaginable at the time. Instead of giving up or rebuilding, the builders demolished and widened the entrance to accommodate the sarcophagus, then reconstructed it to conceal their workaround. One of history's most audacious fixes. Over time, the sarcophagus broke into fragments, possibly due to tomb raiders or the weight of millennia buried underground, with only the lid remaining nearly intact. Archaeologists are now painstakingly piecing together its fragments, as if reassembling a forgotten epic. This discovery and restoration are not just an archaeological triumph, but a reminder that history, though buried in time's sands, awaits retelling. The sarcophagus is more than a pharaoh's resting place. It symbolizes the strength, grandeur, and human flaws of a civilization that once stood at the world's pinnacle. The mummified ibex found in the Alps. You've likely heard of ancient Egyptian mummies or archaeological sites that are thousands of years old, but there's another story I'd like to share with you. This is the story of a mummified ibex, discovered in Val Arena, part of the Alps in South Tyrol, Italy. A group of mountaineers accidentally came across the body of an ibex, lying motionless beneath a thick layer of ice and snow, perfectly preserved for around 400 years. The first person to recognize the significance of this find was Hermann Oberlechner, an expert involved in the survey team. He immediately contacted local authorities, which set off a chain of quick and precise actions to protect the precious specimen from the risk of damage due to external environmental conditions. When discovered, only half of the animal's body was visible above the snow. Its dry skin, devoid of fur, gave it an eerie appearance, prompting Oberlechner to remark that he had never seen anything like it in his career. However, the journey of this mummified ibex didn't stop there. The location where it was found was in a remote area that could only be reached by a combination of mountain climbing and hours of hiking, making the task of transporting the specimen a significant challenge. Thanks to the assistance of a helicopter from Italy's specialized forces, the ibex was eventually transported safely to the Urach Research Center, where it is now housed in a specialized cold room for further study. What truly excites scientists is not just the animal itself, but the potential it holds. Marco Samadelli, a conservation expert, stated, "We now understand the optimal physical and chemical conditions for preserving mummies, and this is the perfect opportunity to test them in practice." Over the centuries, the harsh cold has altered the animal's DNA in ways that modern science is still trying to fully understand. This gives researchers the chance to conduct in-depth analyses to better understand how natural conditions affect biological material over time. Albert Zink, head of the Mummy Research Department at Urach Research, also commented, "Our goal is to establish a process for the global conservation of ice mummies, something that has never been done before with animals. This is the first time in history that an animal mummy has been studied as a living model to develop new conservation techniques, from DNA extraction to establishing long-term storage systems." Unlike the artificial mummies of ancient Egypt, ice mummies like this ibex are natural mummies, preserved by weather and environmental conditions rather than human intervention. This gives them special value, not only in archaeology, but also opening new research avenues in biology, medicine, and the conservation of ancient relics. Currently, the mummified ibex is being thoroughly examined at the Urach Conservation Laboratory, which specializes in ice mummy preservation. The ultimate goal is to maintain the integrity of the DNA, which could help decode ancient secrets and contribute to future discoveries. The blanket-wrapped mummy in Peru. You've probably heard of the majestic pyramids of Egypt, the resting places of countless mysteries surrounding the pharaohs. But forget those for a moment, because today, I'm taking you somewhere completely different, the mysterious land of Peru. Here, archaeologists have recently discovered an ancient tomb located at the top of the Huaca Pucllana pyramid. And what makes this discovery so special is what was found inside. Imagine this. Right in the heart of modern-day Lima, there's a pyramid silently hiding a secret that's over 150 years old. And now, the door to that past is slowly opening before our very eyes. As the dust of centuries was gently brushed away, archaeologists were stunned to uncover the mummy of a woman wrapped like a bundle in a blanket, a unique form of mummification never before seen in this region. Even more chilling, surrounding her were the mummified remains of 3 children, believed to be sacrificial offerings, a grim but not uncommon ritual in many ancient civilizations. But this wasn't just another excavation. This was the first time a fully intact tomb from the Wari civilization had ever been found within this pyramid. Some experts even call it a breakthrough in our journey to understand the history of South America. So who was this woman, buried with such elaborate care? Experts believe she may have been a high-ranking figure in Wari society, a powerful civilization that thrived around the 7th century AD, long before the mighty Inca ever rose to power. The layers of cloth and vines wrapped around the mummy weren't just meant to protect the body, they carried deep spiritual meaning, serving as ritual prayers sent to the afterlife. Remember that fake head photo that's been circulating recently? Don't be fooled, it's not a real head. It's actually a symbolic wooden structure wrapped in cloth, representing the deceased. This was a common element in Wari burial customs. Inside that wrapping, there might only be dry bones, or if we're lucky, a perfectly preserved body, mummified with expert craftsmanship. It's creepy, sure, but also incredibly fascinating, isn't it? And we're not done yet. Within the tomb, archaeologists also found 11 jars of alcohol, a ceramic pot, and 6 woven bags, some of which contained corn and sewing materials, as if this woman were being sent into a new life in the afterworld, complete with everyday necessities. It's a mysterious yet strangely human detail. Right now, experts haven't dared to unwrap the mummy just yet. They're using X-rays first to avoid damaging any part of it. And you know what's interesting? This waiting period makes the mystery even more suspenseful, because who knows what other secrets might be hidden beneath those layers. 1,700-year-old ghost. Ship found with cargo. Amazingly intact. Beneath the deep blue waters of the Mediterranean Sea, where sunlight barely reaches the ocean floor, a centuries-old mystery has finally been brought to light. It is the wreck of an ancient Roman vessel, a true ghost ship that sank in the 4th century AD. Remarkably, its cargo has remained almost completely intact, defying the passage of time. The excavation took place off the coast of Majorca, part of Spain's Balearic Islands. There, archaeologists uncovered hundreds of amphorae, ancient ceramic jars with round bodies, and 2 handles that were used to transport food and liquids throughout the Roman world. But what truly stunned the scientific community was the discovery of a completely new type of amphora that had never been seen anywhere before. Led by Dr. Miguel Ángel Cao Ontiveros of the University of Barcelona, the research team named this new design the Ses Fontanelles. Unlike any previously known type, the Ses Fontanelles amphorae are larger, heavier, and specifically designed to carry large quantities of vegetable oil, an extremely valuable commodity in the ancient economy. The team was able to analyze and classify 4 distinct groups of amphorae found aboard the ship. The most common was the Almagro 51C type, typically used to carry fermented fish sauce, known as garum, a Roman delicacy that resembles modern-day fish sauce. Other types included flat-bottomed amphorae for fruits, the K-19 model for storing oil, and the newly discovered Ses Fontanelles jars. What makes this discovery even more remarkable is the presence of tituli picti, ancient handwritten inscriptions, on many of the amphorae. These labels reveal not only what the containers held but also where they came from, their destinations, and even the names of their owners. Thanks to this, researchers were able to identify the individual behind the ghost ship, a man named Alunius et Ausonius, likely a wealthy merchant who owned an entire fleet of trading ships operating in the Mediterranean. This find is more than just an ancient cargo ship. It opens a new window into the Roman world of commerce, transport, and ceramic production. The discovery of a completely new type of amphora suggests the possible existence of an unknown pottery workshop that created uniquely styled products, distinct from the traditional ceramic centers of that era. Archaeologists hope to trace the manufacturing style and raw materials to pinpoint the location of this mysterious production center, potentially adding a crucial piece to the ancient trade map of the Mediterranean. Perhaps most astonishing is how well these artifacts have been preserved. Despite resting on the ocean floor for centuries, most of the amphorae remained perfectly intact, neither shattered nor decomposed. Researchers believe this was thanks to careful packing using dried grape leaves, a natural shock absorber, combined with the unique underwater conditions near Majorca, where weak currents and low oxygen levels created an ideal preservation environment. All of these findings show that the Mediterranean is not only the cradle of ancient civilizations, but also a golden graveyard for underwater archaeology. Ghost ships like this, buried by time, may hold the keys to countless secrets about humanity's past lives, trade networks, and cultures. And who knows? Hidden beneath the sand and sea may still lie untold treasures waiting to be uncovered. Perfectly preserved, mummified lion cubs, found as if frozen in time. Late last summer, in the permafrost of Yakutia, a region in Siberia, Russia, a local man named Yakov Androsov noticed a strange patch of ice near the banks of the Uyandina River. Inside the transparent layer of ice, he discovered two small cat-like creatures with light golden fur, appearing as if peacefully asleep. These were later identified as the mummified remains of two cave lion cubs, buried under ice for over 12,000 years. Incredibly, they were almost completely preserved, fur, skin, and even internal organs intact. The cubs were named Uyan and Dina, after the river where they were found. About the size of domestic cats, these cubs serve as literal proof of a long-extinct species that once roamed the Earth during the Ice Age. For the first time in modern history, humans have the chance to witness the actual appearance of cave lions, an apex predator that once dominated the cold landscapes of the Pleistocene epoch. Scientists from the Russian Academy of Sciences immediately launched a study. Preliminary analysis shows that the soft tissues and DNA of the cubs are incredibly well preserved, raising the once unthinkable possibility of cloning, although that goal remains far off. Currently, the research team is focused on examining the cubs' internal organs and genetic material to learn more about their origins and evolutionary connections. One theory suggests that the mother may have placed them in a natural pit for protection, only for a landslide to cover the entrance, trapping them in a deep freeze. Thanks to Siberia's harsh yet stable climate, their bodies remained untouched by decay, as if frozen in their final moment. Julie Meechan, a paleontologist at Des Moines University, remarked, "Usually in archaeology, the best you can hope for is a skeleton. If you're lucky, there might be some collagen left, but finding two completely intact individuals with fur, skin, and organs after thousands of years is incredibly rare, almost miraculous." Cave lions were first identified in 1810, and historical records suggest they roamed across Europe and Asia from about 10,000 to 300,000 years ago. Yet little is known about their population size, habitat, or whether they are closely related to modern African lions. Now, thanks to Uyan and Dina, the world has a rare opportunity to uncover the secrets buried beneath the ice, from the lives of cave lions to the brutal conditions of the Ice Age. The question remains, could these two mummies help unlock the evolutionary history of ancient big cats? And more intriguingly, might we one day see a cave lion walk the earth again? Not in a museum, but alive. The future remains uncertain, but it's a thrilling thought, isn't it? Ancient Chinese cosmetics, belonging to aristocratic women from the era of Shi. On March 12, 2025, during the renovation of a historical site in Yuankou County, Shanxi Province, China, the local Institute of Archaeology unearthed 9 ancient tombs believed to belong to a noble family from the Zhou Dynasty, a civilization that existed even before the reign of Qin Shi Huang. Among the 9, 3 tombs were identified as belonging to women and drew particular attention for containing 7 intricately crafted bronze cosmetic boxes, as if they had once belonged to the most esteemed women of their time. After several months of meticulous analysis, the Shanxi Institute of Archaeology, in collaboration with professors from the University of Science and Technology of China, made a groundbreaking announcement. Residues of ancient cosmetics were found inside the bronze boxes. These included animal fat, cedar wood essential oil, curcumin from turmeric, bright red cinnabar, and carbonate minerals. If you look closely, these ingredients may sound familiar. Fatty bases for moisturizing the skin, essential oils for fragrance, turmeric for its anti-inflammatory properties, cinnabar for a reddish tint on the cheeks and lips. From this, researchers confirmed that these boxes provide the earliest physical evidence of cosmetics in ancient China. Similar discoveries had previously been made in Europe, for example, Roman-era makeup made with fat and starch. But the fact that people during the Zhou Dynasty in China had their own unique cosmetic formulations reflects a highly developed sense of aesthetics and self-care. It suggests that the desire for beauty has always been a timeless human instinct. Guanxia, a well-known Chinese news outlet, even linked the discovery to a passage in Han Feizi, a philosophical work by Han Fei, a scholar from the Warring States period. He once wrote, "No amount of praise or admiration can make one as beautiful as Mao Qiang or Shi. Better to use fat and powder to enhance one's appearance." Words written over 2 millennia ago now come alive, not just as theory, but as truth unearthed from the cold soil. On Weibo, China's social media platform, netizens were delighted. One user named Akin commented, "It seems people from over 2,000 years ago were wiser than we imagined." Another user, Xiao, remarked, "A woman's love for beauty is innate, passed down through generations." One even joked, maybe someone time-traveled and brought makeup back to the Zhou dynasty. Clearly, the discovery of Zhou-era cosmetics not only astonishes us with their sophistication, but also offers a refreshing perspective on ancient women. They were not merely shadowy figures behind silk curtains. They had aesthetic taste, a right to be beautiful, and knew how to enhance their radiance, even more than 20 centuries ago. 3,500-year-old tomb, filled with treasures and thousands of gold foil pieces. In the heart of the Peloponnese, near the ruins of the ancient city of Pylos, Greece, archaeologists recently uncovered two royal tombs dating back 3,500 years from the Mycenaean civilization, one of the most dazzling and enigmatic Bronze Age cultures in Europe. What stunned the archaeological world was this. Inside the tombs, thousands of gold foil fragments remained scattered, glittering amid the rubble like remnants of a forgotten dynasty. These two tombs were built in the Tholos architectural style, a beehive-shaped tomb design reserved for the elite during that era. One tomb measured nearly 39 feet in diameter, while the other was about 28 feet wide, clear indicators of the scale and opulence afforded to powerful figures in ancient Greece. Over millennia, the domes of both tombs had collapsed in antiquity, and the fallen debris acted as a natural barrier, shielding the treasures from looters for thousands of years. Thanks to this accidental preservation, researchers discovered a nearly untouched trove. Gold-adorned wall fragments, floors bearing traces of gold leaf, gold rings, pendants depicting the Egyptian goddess Hathor, and most notably, a gold ring engraved with two bulls beside a barley plant, a key crop for ancient Greeks. These seemingly minor details are crucial clues, helping scholars uncover the obscured aspects of Mycenaean civilization. In addition to gold and jewels, the tombs also contained imported artifacts from across the ancient world: red carnelian, amber from the Baltic, and Egyptian quartz crystal. Such finds reveal a level of international trade far more advanced than previously imagined, showing that ancient Greece was not only wealthy but also deeply interconnected with the rest of the world. According to the Greek Ministry of Culture, this discovery is not just a treasure trove of materials, it's a living archive that helps fill historical gaps in the story of the Mycenaean civilization, which laid the foundation for classical Greece. From burial practices and architecture to artistic craftsmanship, all signs point to the tomb's occupants being more than just nobles. They were likely kings, queens, or high-ranking religious figures. Archaeologists believe this could be a transformative find, one that reshapes our understanding of early Greek civilization. Perfectly preserved, woolly mammoth remains found in ice after tens of thousands of years. In the remote Klondike region of Yukon Territory, northwestern Canada, once the heart of the legendary gold rush, miners accidentally stumbled upon one of North America's most significant archaeological discoveries while digging for gold: the mummified remains of a baby woolly mammoth, astonishingly well preserved in the permafrost beneath the frigid ground. This remarkable coincidence has transported the world back to the final days of the Ice Age, a time when colossal creatures still roamed the northern hemisphere's grassy plains. Scientists have named the specimen Nun Choga, which means big baby animal in the hen language of the indigenous Trondek-Huechin people, a tribute to the land and culture that safeguarded this creature for tens of thousands of years. Researchers believe Nun Choga was only about 30 to 35 days old when it died. Yet this sudden death, combined with the extreme natural conditions, turned it into the most complete baby woolly mammoth mummy ever discovered in North America. The little mammoth measured about 4 feet 7 inches long, tiny compared to the massive adult mammoths often seen in films. Despite its size, the specimen's near-perfect condition stunned scientists. Its once muscular trunk has softened but retained its shape. The hooves still show wear grooves, evidence of its first steps, and most remarkably, the signature brown woolly fur remains intact, blanketing its body as if frozen in defiance of time. The woolly mammoth, scientifically known as Mammuthus primigenius, is an icon of the Ice Age. These giants roamed the tundras of Europe and North America for more than 140,000 years. As adults, they could stand up to 11.5 feet tall, wield tusks as long as 16.4 feet, and sport thick fur up to 3.3 feet long, especially along their bellies. With small ears and short tails, these evolutionary adaptations helped minimize heat loss, crucial for survival in their icy environment. What makes Mohenjo-daro even more extraordinary isn't just its pristine preservation, but the era in which it lived and died. Alongside cave lions, wild horses, and ancient steppe bison, DNA, soft tissues, and muscle samples are currently being preserved and analyzed, not only to deepen our understanding of mammoth biology, but also to tackle an even bigger question. What really happened to these giant creatures? Why did they vanish just as humans began spreading across the continents? And more importantly, could specimens like Mohenjo-daro hold the key to de-extinction technology? A concept once confined to science fiction, but now emerging as a serious scientific inquiry? Could woolly mammoths someday walk again across the frozen tundra, reborn from the fossilized memory of the Earth? 11,000-year-old child burial, unearthed in Vietnam. Have you ever imagined that right beneath your feet might lie a secret tens of thousands of years old? A clue from the distant past? A whisper from prehistory waiting to be heard? If not, let's turn back the hands of time and travel to the lush mountains of Bac Sun, Vietnam, where a stunning archaeological discovery has just come to light. At Bat Cave, a limestone cave deep within the majestic cliffs of Vu Le Commune, Bac Sun District, Lang Son Province, archaeologists have uncovered the skeletal remains of a child estimated to be 11,000 years old. Yes, you read that right, a child from the Paleolithic era, still echoing untold stories from a world long vanished. This excavation was carried out through the collaboration of the Institute of Archaeology under the Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences and the Lang Son Provincial Museum. With permission from the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism, the team ventured into the depths of the cave, designated a National Heritage Site since 2004 to explore cultural layers buried for millennia. And what they found defied expectations. The child's skeleton was curled in a fetal position, a common prehistoric burial practice. The head faced north, the feet pointed south, and the face turned east, as if welcoming the first morning light. These orientations were no coincidence. They reflect spiritual beliefs, perhaps in rebirth, reincarnation, or an afterlife. Although the skull had deteriorated over time, the pelvis and limbs remained fairly intact, allowing researchers to confirm the remains belonged to a child. Even more compelling, the grave was surrounded by stone flakes, porcupine quills, and traces of a hearth, indicating that this was not merely a burial site, but also a place of living, ritual, or both. Each of these small details is a key to unlocking the mysteries of what we now call the Bac Sun culture, a prehistoric civilization that thrived on this land tens of thousands of years ago, leaving behind tools, cave dwellings, and now this enigmatic child burial. All artifacts from the excavation will be transferred to the Lang Son Provincial Museum for conservation, study, and display. And who knows? From those tiny bones, scientists may one day reveal even more astonishing stories about how ancient humans lived, thought, and faced death. Today, Hang Dui is no longer just a tourist stop or an anonymous cave. It has become a bridge between the present and the past, between modern people and ancient ancestors. And this journey of discovery has only just begun. The special shoes of a terracotta warrior in the tomb of Qin Shi Huang. When people talk about the famous terracotta army of Emperor Qin Shi Huang, they usually marvel at the warrior's majestic presence, lifelike facial expressions, and remarkably detailed weapons and armor. But have you ever considered that what truly astonished scientists after more than 2,000 years wasn't the weaponry or the armor, but a pair of shoes? That's right. Not the swords, not the armor plates, but the shoes of a kneeling archer, the only warrior among thousands whose footwear is fully visible, are now unlocking a new doorway into the peak craftsmanship of the Qin Dynasty. The Terracotta Army, accidentally discovered in 1974 by a group of farmers digging a well on the outskirts of Xi'an, China, has long been hailed as one of the greatest archaeological wonders of the world. Life-sized statues of warriors, equipped with real weapons and arranged in military formation, stand as symbols of Emperor Qin Shi Huang's absolute power and strategic foresight, the man who first unified China in 221 BCE. Yet it wasn't until nearly half a century later that one warrior's shoes became the center of attention. A research team from Sichuan University meticulously analyzed the footwear and even recreated the shoes using the exact materials and techniques believed to be used by ancient artisans. The results were astonishing. The shoes were not only flexible and soft, but also impressively stable. The soles were woven from ramie fiber, layered, glued, stitched, and tightly compressed, demonstrating craftsmanship that rivals modern shoemaking technology. Researcher Cha Na noted that holding the replica in her hands, she could vividly imagine each needle stitch piercing through the fabric, forming clean, solid lines. The toe area had the highest stitch density, followed by the heel and midsole, an extremely rational design based on weight distribution and the soldier's movement. What's more, the absorbent material used in the heel allowed soldiers to move smoothly in wet, slippery conditions, a critical advantage on the battlefield. Clearly, these were not just shoes, but combat tools. Their balance and flexibility may have played an essential role in helping Qin's army win countless battles. They reflect a deeply strategic mindset. From weaponry and troop organization down to every step taken, everything was precisely calculated. To date, only around 2,000 terracotta warriors have been excavated, a small number compared to the tens of thousands still buried beneath the soil of Xi'an. And if even a tiny pair of shoes holds such secrets, just imagine how many more stories lie waiting to be uncovered. More than just a burial project, the Terracotta Army is a living archive of ancient Chinese society, where elite craftsmanship stood shoulder to shoulder with military might. That humble pair of kneeling shoes, once considered a minor detail, has now become a symbol of the Qin Empire's pursuit of perfection, step by step. Fascinating, isn't it? 5-ton fossil of demon-faced beast unearthed in Florida. If a time portal opened right beneath your feet, would you step through it? Imagine standing in the wild lands of northern Florida, where epic battles for survival unfolded millions of years ago. In this buried world teeming with massive beasts, one such creature has just been awakened. What would you do? During what seemed like a routine dig along the bed of a dried-up river, a research team from the Florida Museum of Natural History unexpectedly unearthed fossilized bones of a gigantic, bizarre, and almost otherworldly creature. It was a gomphothere, an ancient elephant-like animal that looked as though it had walked straight out of a nightmare. Gomphotheres weren't just distant relatives of modern elephants. They were demon-faced beasts that once roamed North America around 6 million years ago. Weighing up to 11,000 pounds and standing as tall as today's African elephants, this beast had 4 tusks, 2 long pointed ones from its upper jaw and 2 shorter upward curving ones from its lower jaw, giving it a face that was both fascinating and terrifying. If you're thinking of monsters from Hollywood movies, you're not far off. Filmmakers may have inadvertently recreated a creature that actually once roamed Earth. The excavation site, named Montbrook, is a natural fossil graveyard, a place where past and present collide through ancient layers of soil. It was here that Dean Warner, a retired chemistry teacher, stumbled upon the fully intact remains of what's now known as the King Gomphothere. What's remarkable is that the massive skeleton remained in a natural resting pose, as if the animal had simply lain down and never gotten up again. A peaceful death preserved under the earth for millions of years. This is not just the largest Gomphothere skeleton ever discovered, but also one of the most complete fossil specimens of its kind in the world. Its skull measures over 8.9 feet long, and it stood nearly 8.2 feet tall, like a living tower that once dominated the ancient wilderness. But why were so many Gomphotheres and other animals found concentrated in this one place? Scientists hypothesize that, much like modern elephants, aging individuals may have returned to familiar watering holes to die. Over thousands of years, repeated floods may have layered the remains of generations of animals atop one another, forming a multi-layered fossil cemetery, a kind of stone-etched chronicle of Earth's prehistoric past. So yes, to say that the King Gomphothere is more than just a fossil isn't an exaggeration. It is a witness from the depths of time, telling the tale of a world that existed long before humans, one of staggering complexity and raw survival. The 2,000-year-old butter ball. You probably never imagined that a lump of butter could survive for 2,000 years, right? But in this mysterious world, anything is possible. Picture yourself standing in a damp Irish bog where lush green grass thrives and the air is thick with the breath of history. Suddenly, you stumble upon a strange object, something that looks like a giant potato, but in truth, it's a ball of butter. A butter ball weighing nearly 22 pounds, something so unexpected that its survival through millennia is nothing short of astonishing. The story began when a turf cutter named Jack Conaway was working in the Mlag bog and came across this peculiar lump. At first, he may have assumed it was just an odd clump of earth or rock, but upon closer inspection, he realized it was a strangely preserved piece of butter. So, how could a piece of butter survive for so long? And what exactly is it? This butterball was no ordinary food item. Made from cow's milk, it has a strong smell, far more pungent than cheese, which might make many people wrinkle their noses. Estimated to be up to 2,000 years old, this butter has been on an extraordinary journey, much of which still remains a mystery. But one thing is certain, not everyone gets the chance to witness such a bizarre and rare artifact. The answer to how it survived lies in the preservation methods of the past. In ancient times, before refrigeration existed, people devised a highly creative method to store butter, burying it underground. But not just anywhere. They chose bogs, which provided a cool, low-oxygen environment. These exact conditions helped prevent the butter from spoiling. With no salt and no refrigeration, the mud and oxygen-poor surroundings preserved it in surprisingly good condition. Even more intriguing, archaeologists have discovered that these ancient butterballs were often buried not just in random locations, but at intersections between ancient kingdoms. These areas were considered sacred ground, no man's land, where trespassing was forbidden. This has led to speculation that the butter may have been buried not merely for preservation, but as offerings to the gods. In addition to butter, archaeologists have unearthed jars of cheese dating back to between 400 and 350 BCE. Amazingly, although these dairy products were buried for centuries, they still retain their original shapes, though their taste, of course, would be nothing like what it once was. So even after thousands of years, this butterball remains a rare and fascinating artifact, sparking curiosity and imagination about the past. What do you think about a 2,000-year-old butterball? It might be a gift from time itself, or simply a testament to ancient creativity and ingenuity in food preservation. Whatever your interpretation, to me, it's still an unsolved mystery. And perhaps stories like these will continue to draw us into the depths of history and the strange wonders of our world. The ghost ship stranded in the desert. Amid the vast, endless desert, it's hard to believe your eyes when you come across a ghost ship basking in the sunlight. In reality, these ships are the haunting remnants of a bygone era, when the Aral Sea in Uzbekistan was a prosperous fishing hub, bringing wealth and vibrant trade to surrounding communities. Today, if we measure time on a cosmic scale, only a few days have passed, yet entire stretches of this once mighty sea have vanished. The fish are long gone, and all that remains are rusting, sorrowful shipwrecks. The Aral Sea was once one of the largest inland bodies of water on Earth, covering nearly 27,000 square miles. Now, it has shrunk to just around 1,900 square miles, fragmented into 4 smaller lakes. Despite being called a sea, it was technically a lake, but one of the largest the world had ever known. The Soviet Union once aimed to harness this water source to irrigate the surrounding desert for cotton and other crops. This massive irrigation effort began in the 1940s and profoundly impacted the Aral Sea. By the 1960s, water levels were dropping by about 8 inches per year. By the 1970s, the rate had increased to 24 inches per year. In the 1980s, water withdrawals intensified, and the lake's water level dropped by a staggering 35 inches annually. Eventually, the lake, or sea, was no longer able to give anything at all. This collapse spelled disaster for local communities, as both agriculture and the once thriving fishing industry faced total ruin. In 1991, following Uzbekistan's independence from Russia, water mysteriously began reappearing. However, a new problem emerged. Excessive use of chemical fertilizers had rendered the remaining water toxic, posing serious health risks to local residents. Illnesses such as tuberculosis and cancer became more prevalent. Since 2005, intensified efforts have been made to restore the Aral Sea's former glory. A dam was planned to help raise water levels, reduce salinity, and revive life in the ecosystem. However, more time is still needed to repair the damage that UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon once described as one of the worst environmental disasters of our time. The mystery of Mohenjo-daro, the Mound of the Dead. Mohenjo-daro, also known as the Mound of the Dead, is one of the oldest and most mysterious cities ever discovered by mankind. It carries with it countless tales of prosperity and a sudden, unexplained disappearance. And if you think history is just a series of dry facts, Mohenjo-daro will make you think again. Located in Sindh province, Pakistan, Mohenjo-daro was once one of the major centers of the ancient Indus Valley civilization. A magnificent city, it was built around 2600 BCE, contemporary with ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Surprisingly, it wasn't until 1922 that this city was discovered. And since then, the mysteries surrounding Mohenjo-daro have only deepened. Why is it called the Mound of the Dead? The answer goes beyond just its name. It lies in the city's sudden and unexplained vanishing. Mohenjo-daro was once a thriving metropolis, home to about 35,000 residents. They built a community with an organized road network and an underground drainage system so advanced that many modern cities today still lag behind. And remember, all of this was accomplished over 4,000 years ago. Of course, what makes Mohenjo-daro truly special isn't just its prosperity, it's the city's unique architecture. Unlike many other ancient cities that were built with stone, the structures here were made of baked bricks. This demonstrates that the people of Mohenjo-daro had architectural and technological skills far ahead of their time. They didn't just know how to build durable structures, they also prioritized comfort and sustainable urban development. But what caused such a beautiful and advanced city to disappear so abruptly? That's the question archaeologists have yet to answer convincingly. For decades, researchers have worked tirelessly to decode ancient seals with hieroglyphic symbols and uncover traces of early life. But to this day, no single theory has been widely accepted to explain Mohenjo-daro's fall. Some believe that a natural disaster, like an earthquake, flood, or sudden climate shift, may have buried the city in oblivion. Others suggest it may have been completely destroyed by an invasion from another civilization. Whatever the cause, Mohenjo-daro retains its unsolved mystery. It stands as one of the most captivating stories in human history, one that inevitably comes to mind whenever we speak of ancient civilizations. By now, you're probably wondering, what really happened to Mohenjo-daro? What exactly caused its disappearance? The truth is, we may be a long way from finding out, because the city holds so many secrets that even the most renowned scientists are still at a loss. The giant rift in Africa. We are living on a planet that is constantly changing. Every day, the Earth moves in ways that we often don't notice immediately. But sometimes, those changes are visible and dramatic, demanding our attention. One of the most astonishing recent changes is the emergence of a giant crack in southwestern Kenya, a sign that the African continent may be starting to split in two. Imagine a crack stretching several miles long and tens of yards wide, suddenly appearing and damaging a major highway that connects Nairobi and Narok. Even more unsettling, this rift came with seismic activity, turning the area into a geological hotspot. It forces us to consider, is this evidence of a grand tectonic process tearing Africa apart? Earth is not a static planet. Beneath its surface, tectonic plates are constantly shifting, creating rifts, volcanoes, and earthquakes. One of the most active areas on Earth is the East African Rift Zone, a region where this process is most intense. Stretching over 1,800 miles from the Gulf of Aden in the north to Zimbabwe in the south, the East African Rift is where the African plate is slowly splitting into two, the Somali plate and the Nubian plate. Scientists estimate that in about 50 million years, Africa will no longer be a single unified continent, but will divide into two distinct landmasses. But what's fascinating is that signs of this division are no longer just theoretical, they're already visible. The giant rift in Kenya is one of the clearest indicators, showing that the continent is separating at a rate of roughly 1 inch per year. Geologists like David Ahedi, a specialist based in Kenya, believe this rift is accelerating due to increased volcanic activity, especially from Mount Suswa. Located in the Great Rift Valley, Mount Suswa is driving significant changes, helping the tectonic plates move apart more rapidly. But why does any of this matter to us? Let's take a look back in time. About 138 million years ago, a similar event took place. The South Atlantic Ocean formed when South America split from Africa. At that time, these two continents were once one, and as they separated, their coastlines fit together like puzzle pieces. Even today, the matching shorelines of South America and Africa are a clear sign of that ancient tectonic split. So, could the same thing happen to Africa in the future? Could we witness the formation of a new ocean, separating the Somali plate from the rest of the continent? While we can't say for sure, the movement of tectonic plates serves as a vivid reminder that Earth is always changing, and that we are just a small part of its vast and dynamic story. The story of the giant rift in Kenya is more than just a fascinating geological event. It's a powerful reminder of the planet's mystery and wonder. Will we witness such monumental changes within our lifetimes? That is certainly a question worth pondering. Fossil of an ancient crocodile, the size of a bus. Paleontologists in Tunisia have made a groundbreaking discovery in the scientific community. They found the fossil of a giant ancient crocodile species that had never been known before. This is not just an ordinary crocodile, but a real monster that measured over 30 feet in length and weighed nearly 600 pounds, with a skull more than 5 feet long. The species has been named Machimosaurus rex, a name that both invokes the might of ancient crocodiles and reminds us of the dominators in the food chains of that era. And just as the researchers describe, Machimosaurus rex was indeed a giant and terrifying predator. According to Federico Fanti, the lead researcher and expert from the University of Bologna, this crocodile was very large, almost the size of a bus, and it surely stood at the top of the food chain of its time, at least in the area that is now the Sahara Desert. So, what makes this discovery so significant? The scientists didn't just find the bones of this crocodile. They also uncovered a large portion of fossils in the region near the edge of the Sahara Desert, Tunisia. This is a region famous for its rich fossil deposits, which was once a vast lagoon connected to the sea. In addition to the crocodile bones, the researchers also found bones from fish and turtles, confirming that this area was once home to a variety of marine life. With its enormous size and incredible strength, Machimosaurus rex was a skilled underwater hunter, capable of ambushing prey quietly or hunting animals that drifted along with the current. Based on the characteristics of its skull and teeth, scientists believe this crocodile had a powerful bite, capable of crushing the bones and flesh of its prey, especially turtles, which would have been a prime meal for it. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this discovery is the major shift it brings in our understanding of the history of life on Earth. Prior to this discovery, scientists believed that the group of crocodiles to which Machimosaurus rex belongs had gone extinct around 150 million years ago, at the end of the Jurassic period. However, the new fossils show that this species survived for an additional 130 million years, beyond the mass extinction event that wiped out many species at the end of the Jurassic period. This finding has sparked an intense debate within the scientific community. Is the theory of the mass extinction truly accurate? In response, researchers suggest that we need to revisit the hypotheses regarding life before and after the mass extinction, particularly through discoveries like Machimosaurus rex. This opens new doors for the study and understanding of Earth's distant past. Machimosaurus rex may not only be a giant ancient creature, but it also serves as a mirror, reflecting the secrets of the past that are yet to be fully uncovered about the history of life on our planet. When we look at this fossil, we're not just seeing a giant crocodile, but a part of the past that science will continue to explore. The werewolf skull. If on an ordinary morning in the fields, what you dug up wasn't stone or tree roots, but an ancient wooden box, bound tightly in chains as if meant to imprison a secret no one should know, what would you do? You probably can't imagine it, right? But that's exactly what happened to Traichi Dragunov, a simple Bulgarian farmer living in the town of Novo Selo, Macedonia. While preparing the soil for the new planting season, Dragunov unexpectedly uncovered a decayed wooden chest buried deep in the ground. Strangely, this box didn't resemble any farming tool he had ever seen. It was tightly wrapped in rusty chains and securely locked, as if someone had gone to great lengths to ensure that no one could ever open it. Driven by curiosity, he broke the chains and opened the box. What he saw inside left him utterly speechless. And guess what? Inside the box was a skull that looked like it belonged to a wolf. But what shocked everyone was the unusually large, bulging top of the skull, a trait never seen in animals, only in primates and humans. The skull had the fierce look of a wild beast, but also a strange and disturbing shape that defied ordinary logic. News of this shocking discovery quickly reached historian Philip Ganev, who happened to be in Novo Selo, gathering materials for a book on the Balkan Wars. After seeing the skull for himself, Ganev immediately took photos and sent them to the authorities. However, the official statement from the Macedonian government left many disappointed. They claimed it was simply the skull of a wolf suffering from chronic bone disease, a rare condition that could deform the skull. But here's where the story gets even more mysterious. The disease they mentioned is typically found in humans and is extremely rare in wild animals. So how could a wolf contract a condition that usually only affects people? And why was the skull carefully stored in a chained box, as if imprisoning something dangerous? To answer this, we must look back to the folklore of the ancient Balkan region, where werewolves are not just legend, they are a deeply rooted fear passed down through generations. Some even believe werewolves are the cursed souls of those who committed grave sins, doomed to wander forever. One legend claims that werewolves can only be destroyed on Saturdays when they return to their graves to rest. The only way to prevent their resurrection is to sever the head and burn the remaining body. If that's true, then the fact that the box contained only a head might indicate that someone performed a sealing ritual to prevent the creature's return. But did Traichi Dragunov unknowingly break that seal when he opened the box? What's unsettling is that while Traich was proud of his strange discovery and willing to show it to anyone interested, the villagers of Novo Selo didn't see it the same way. They believed he had awakened something that should have been left alone, and they feared the return of the werewolf. Traich shared his growing unease. They think my actions will bring the werewolf back, but what's done is done. Whatever's coming is coming. So, what do you think? Was it merely the deformed skull of a wolf, or a remnant of a terrifying creature that once haunted the ancient Balkans? If you have an answer, feel free to leave a comment below. As for me, I believe the answer may still lie buried in that very same field, or worse, it may have already awakened, waiting for something in the near future. The 5,000-year-old tombs on the Witches' Hill of Ireland. Scattered across the east and west Carnbane Hills in the Loughcrew region of Ireland lies a rugged landscape that holds over 30 stone tombs. Interspersed with earthen mounds, these ancient stone structures exude a mysterious and otherworldly beauty. According to Irish folklore, this area is known as the Witches' Hill. Legend says the tombs were created by giant witches who accidentally dropped stones from their aprons while flying overhead. Unlike other megalithic structures such as Stonehenge in England or Newgrange, also in Ireland, the Loughcrew tombs are dated to around 3500 to 3200 BCE, making them over 5,000 years old. It's said that from the highest cairn here, you can see across 18 regions in the Loughcrew area. Although not a heavily visited tourist spot, those who make the journey are often left deeply impressed. The central tombs are the main focus of attention. Among them is Cairn T, one of the oldest ancient burial sites in the world, and the oldest known unsupported stone structure still standing. It remains largely intact today, surrounded by over 40 upright stones forming a circular perimeter. These tombs were not built randomly. Their construction shows a deliberate alignment toward the sunrise during the summer and winter solstices. Every morning at dawn, the tombs are illuminated by beautiful golden light. Some scholars believe the ancient Irish possessed significant astronomical knowledge and closely tracked the sun's movements. Others suggest these alignments had spiritual or religious significance. Twice a year, when day and night are of equal length, sunlight floods the hills, even reaching into the darkest corners of the tombs, illuminating the carved patterns on the stone walls. The most striking feature of Loughcrew is its unique rock carvings. The ancient people etched concentric circles, floral patterns, and crosses into the stones. Some believe these weren't merely decorative. One theory suggests that the carvings represent the astronomical understanding of the time, perhaps even maps of the stars and planets. While this idea lacks broad academic support, another plausible theory posits that the carvings represent forts or settlements. Researchers studying many of the cairns believe they were not only tombs, but also ancient calendars used for determining crop cycles. In the 1980s, Martin Brennan discovered a mysterious stone at this site and called it the Backstone. It's one of 26 stones in Cairn U and is believed to hold spiritual significance still not fully understood. Unfortunately, the area has yet to receive the recognition it deserves. Locals have fenced it off for sheep grazing. A heritage site that might contain messages from a long-lost civilization now sits quietly forgotten in the lush Irish meadows. Maybe it's time we look at places like Loughcrew, not just as tourist attractions, but as possible clues to a prehistoric world that humanity still doesn't fully understand. Could it be that these ancient tombs still hold secrets we're not yet ready to unlock? The burned remains of a medieval young woman. At the San Calocero complex in Albenga, Italy, archaeologists uncovered a set of human remains that shocked the world. These were the charred bones of a young woman who lived sometime between the 9th and 15th centuries. She had been burned and buried in a grave sealed with heavy stones. This unusual burial method reflects not only fear, but utter terror. People believe that even in death, this girl posed a threat. But why? What would cause a young woman to be treated like a monster? Imagine living in a medieval village where darkness envelops everything as soon as the sun sets. Whispers of witches, demons, and curses spread like a cold wind. In such a world, a girl with pale skin, sunken eyes, and a frail body could easily be seen as a manifestation of evil. That was the fate of this young woman. The story becomes even more chilling when we learn this wasn't an isolated case. At the same site, in 2014, a team of archaeologists led by Professor Felipe Pergola excavated the remains of another girl, only 13 years old, who had been buried face down, a burial practice from ancient times believed to prevent the dead from rising. Other burial methods, such as placing bricks in the mouth, driving stakes through the heart, or even decapitation, all reflect a deep fear of the so-called lost souls. But what exactly caused these two girls to be treated this way? Further analysis revealed that the burned young woman suffered from severe anemia and parodic hyperestosis, signs of extreme malnutrition. Her weak tooth enamel and small body, standing only about 4 feet 9 inches tall, tell the story of a harsh, impoverished childhood. Perhaps her pale complexion and bruised skin led the villagers to panic, branding her a witch. Anthropologist Elena Delou revealed, "The girl was burned when her body was still soft, meaning the cremation may have taken place just before or shortly after death. Was she still alive when the fire was lit?" That haunting question sends chills down the spine. Now place yourself in the context of the Middle Ages, when science was in its infancy, and anything unexplained was attributed to demonic forces. A sickly girl with a frail body and unusual appearance easily became the focus of collective fear. The rushed burial, the stones thrown onto the grave, and even the burning of her body all speak to a desperate community trying to protect itself from what it didn't understand. But the heartbreaking truth is that these so-called witches were likely nothing more than victims of illness and prejudice. They did not deserve such cruelty. The story of the young woman at San Calocero is not just an archaeological discovery. It is a window into the human psyche of the Middle Ages. It reminds us that fear, when left unchecked, can lead people to commit acts of terrible inhumanity. Two beasts found alive inside a 500-year-old monk's tomb in China. What was thought to be a forgotten tomb has revealed a secret not found in any history book. Not gold, not treasure, but life? A creature thought to have vanished from the earth over half a century ago? That's exactly what happened during a mysterious excavation in China, where the tomb of a Ming Dynasty monk suddenly became the center of attention, not for artifacts, but for the shocking appearance of two living, unidentified creatures. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, tomb raiding was a thriving underground profession, defying all royal decrees. These grave robbers didn't target ordinary tombs. They sought out the resting places of royalty, aristocrats, and the wealthy, where both bodies and riches lay hidden. But there was one unusual exception: the tomb of Chan Master Yanzhu Guang, a renowned monk in Sichuan. Unlike most monks, he wasn't cremated, but was buried at Tianla Mountain in Longchang, China. Rumors of attempted tomb raids circulated, but strangely, no valuable items were ever reported missing. Some believe the monk was buried without treasures. Others think the thieves were so careful that they left no trace. It wasn't until China's 2009 nationwide cultural heritage survey that the tomb was officially reopened. Archaeologists worked tirelessly to clear the entrance, which had been heavily damaged by time. Inside, they found a small stone chamber, about 20 feet long and 10 feet wide, nearly empty. There were no relics, no Buddha statues, only a simple stone tablet with a brief biography of the monk. The excavation seemed destined to end in disappointment until something stirred in the shadows. A faint glow flickered in the dark. Two glowing green eyes stunned the team. Suddenly, two strange creatures emerged and bolted from the tomb, moving so fast no one could react in time. They vanished into the surrounding forest, leaving behind stunned faces and a flood of unanswered questions. Fortunately, a few team members managed to snap photos of the animals. When the images were analyzed, experts were stunned to learn the creatures were raccoon dogs, a wild species once native to the Longchang region, thought to have gone extinct in the 1950s. According to records from the forestry department, there had been no sightings of raccoon dogs in over half a century. The eerie glowing eyes, resembling will-o'-the-wisps, were simply the animals' eyes reflecting dim light. Their unexpected presence sparked a wave of speculation. Had they really gone extinct? Or had they been silently surviving in some forgotten corner of the world? And if not for this excavation, would we have ever known they still existed? Though the tomb yielded no precious artifacts from the past, the rediscovery of a species thought extinct was an unprecedented event. This time, instead of gold, humanity found life within an ancient tomb, a strange and miraculous paradox of death and rebirth. The story of Chan Master Yanju Guang's tomb serves as a reminder that history is not only written in lifeless objects, but also in the things we thought were lost forever. Sometimes in a pair of wild eyes gleaming in the darkness of a 1,000-year-old tomb. The White Ghost in a 1,000-year-old tomb. In late 2007, in Jingzhou, Hubei Province, China, a construction site near Jingsha Avenue was carrying out its usual work, just like any other day. Suddenly, a shout echoed through the dusty air. "A huge hole has appeared! It seems there's something down there!" The workers immediately stopped what they were doing, and within moments, the entire construction site fell eerily silent. The local people were no strangers to archaeological stories. After all, Jingzhou was once the capital of the Chu Dynasty, where it was common to find remnants of the past just below the surface. Therefore, as soon as the strange hole was discovered, the construction site representatives quickly alerted the local Cultural Heritage Bureau. Archaeologists arrived swiftly. Upon assessing the site, the experts determined that this tomb was not from the Chu Dynasty, but from the Han Dynasty. After digging down to a depth of about 6.5 feet, the shape of the nearly 1,000-year-old tomb began to emerge. It had a funnel shape, narrowing from top to bottom, covering an area of approximately 260 square feet. Eventually, the archaeologists uncovered a massive coffin at the center of the tomb. The coffin measured over 13 feet long and more than 10 feet wide. Surrounding the coffin were various burial items. At that moment, the archaeologists made an unexpected discovery. The coffin's lid featured a wooden frame, connected in a circular shape with wooden joints. Excited by this find, the experts were eager to open the coffin and examine what lay inside. However, they could not have anticipated the strange event that was about to unfold. Suddenly, a grayish-white human shape appeared on the lid of the